The text appeared on my phone like a digital slap across the face. I need to tell you something. Don't wait up tonight. 7 words. That's all it took to make my hand shake, my coffee mug clattering against the kitchen counter. I've been married to Tyler long enough to know when something's wrong. 8 years of sharing a life teaches you to read between the lines, to sense the tremors before the earthquake hits. I stared at those words until they blurred, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. What do you say to a message that reeks of goodbye? Is everything okay? I typed, deleted, typed again. Pathetic. Of course, nothing was okay. The house felt different suddenly. Too quiet. Too empty. Our wedding photos on the wall seemed to mock me. Tyler's perfect smile, his arm around my waist, both of us radiating happiness. What a joke. My phone buzzed again. Margaret knows. She'll explain everything. Margaret. Of course his mother would be involved. She'd never approved of me, always finding subtle ways to remind me that I wasn't good enough for her precious son. Too focused on my writing, not ready for children, not from the right social circle. I called Ben immediately. Something's wrong, I said when he picked up. Tyler's acting strange, and apparently Margaret has all the answers. Heaven! Ben's lawyer voice kicked in, calm and measured. Don't jump to conclusions. Want me to come over? No, I need to handle this myself. The doorbell rang, making me flinch. Through the frosted glass, I could see Margaret's silhouette, straight-backed and proper as always. I opened the door, noting her perfectly pressed clothes, her immaculate makeup. She looked like she was attending a business meeting, not destroying someone's life. Heaven, dear! Her smile didn't reach her eyes. May I come in? I stepped aside, watching her glide into my living room like she owned it. She probably thought she did. I assume Tyler has messaged you? She perched on the edge of our sofa, her designer handbag placed precisely beside her. Cut the act, Margaret. What's going on? She sighed, a sound full of practiced sympathy. Tyler's found someone else. Someone more suitable. Her name is Clara. I introduced them at the charity gala last month. The words hit like bullets, each one finding its mark. Last month. The gala I couldn't attend because I was at my writing workshop, the one Margaret had insisted Tyler attend alone. You planned this. The realization came with crystal clarity. I merely facilitated an inevitable outcome. Margaret's voice turned steel cold. Let's be honest, Heaven. You were never going to give Tyler what he needs, what our family needs. Clara understands the importance of legacy. I laughed, a harsh sound that surprised us both. Legacy? You mean she's young and fertile, unlike your broken daughter-in-law? Don't be crude. Margaret stood, smoothing her skirt. Tyler will be filing for divorce. I suggest you make this easy on everyone and accept it gracefully. Gracefully? My voice shook. Like you gracefully orchestrated my husband's affair? Oh, Heaven. She reached for her bag, looking almost pitying. Did you really think this marriage would last? You were never one of us. Tyler needs someone who can give him children, who understands our world. Clara is perfect for him. I watched her walk to the door, her heels clicking against the hardwood floors we'd picked out together. Tyler and I, planning for a future that was now turning to ash. Margaret? I called after her. She paused, hand on the doorknob. Tell Tyler something for me? She turned, eyebrow raised. Tell him I hope Clara gives him everything he wants. I smiled, feeling something hard and cold settle in my chest. And tell him I'll see him in court. The door closed behind her with a soft click, leaving me alone in a house full of memories that suddenly felt like lies. My phone buzzed again. Tyler, probably with more excuses, more explanations. I didn't read it. Instead, I opened my laptop and started typing. Not another chapter of my novel, but something else entirely. Something that would make them all pay. Tyler came home at midnight, reeking of expensive perfume and guilt. I sat in the dark living room, my laptop still open to the document that would destroy him. He flipped on the lights and jumped. Jesus, Heaven, what are you doing sitting in the dark? Waiting for my husband to come home and tell me about Clara. The name felt like poison on my tongue. Or were you planning to let your mother do all your dirty work? He loosened his tie, a nervous gesture I'd once found endearing. So she told you. She did more than tell me. She gloated. I closed my laptop with a snap. How long have you been planning this? It's not what you think. Tyler paced the room, keeping his distance. Clara and I, it just happened. We connected. At the gala, your mother insisted I skip? My laugh sounded hollow. The one she practically pushed you to attend? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Mother had nothing to do with. Stop lying. I stood up, my legs steadier than I expected. She orchestrated the whole thing, found the perfect breeding mare for her precious son. Don't be crude. His words echoed his mother's, making my skin crawl. This isn't about having children. No? I moved closer, watching him retreat. Then why did your mother spend 20 minutes explaining how Clara understands the importance of family legacy? Tyler's face hardened. Maybe she has a point. We've been trying for years, Heaven. Years of disappointment, of watching you pour yourself into your writing instead of. Instead of what? My voice rose. Instead of being the perfect society wife? Instead of attending your mother's charity functions and playing hostess to her friends? That's not fair. Fair? I grabbed my phone, pulling up the photos I'd found earlier. Was it fair when you and Clara spent Valentine's Day together while I was at my fertility appointment? Was it fair when your mother introduced her to your entire family at Easter, knowing what you were planning? His eyes widened at the photos. You've been spying on me? No, Tyler. Your mother's friends aren't as discreet as she thinks. They've been sending me sympathetic messages all day, complete with evidence of your indiscretions. He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I never meant to hurt you. That's the problem, isn't it? I moved toward the stairs. You never meant anything. You just let your mother puppet master our entire marriage. Where are you going? To pack. I paused on the first step. Unless you'd prefer to leave? After all, Clara's probably waiting up for you. Heaven, please. We can talk about this. Like you talked to me before starting an affair? Or like you talked to me before letting your mother plan my replacement? His silence was answer enough. I climbed the stairs, each step feeling like a victory. Behind me, I heard him on the phone. Mother? She knows everything. No, I don't think she'll be reasonable about this. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, I opened my laptop again. The document was still there, waiting. I'd titled it, The Perfect Son, a story about a wealthy family's golden boy and his controlling mother. Fiction, of course, with just enough truth to make them squirm. My phone buzzed with a text from Ben. How are you holding up? I typed back. Starting chapter 2, it's going to be a bestseller. Below, I could hear Tyler still talking to Margaret, their voices rising. Let them plot. Let them scheme. They thought they were breaking me, but they were just giving me material. Another text came through, this time from an unknown number. Heaven, this is Clara. We need to talk. I stared at the message, a smile spreading across my face. Perfect. Every story needs an unexpected ally, and Clara might just be mine. After all, she'd seen Margaret's manipulation up close. Maybe it was time she learned what happened to Margaret's last daughter-in-law. I saved my document and started a new message to Clara. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold, it's published in hardcover. I met Clara at a small cafe 3 blocks from my house, far enough from Tyler's usual haunts to avoid detection. She sat in a corner booth, perfectly put together in that effortless way that probably took hours to achieve. Just Margaret's type. Thank you for meeting me, she said, fingers wrapped around an untouched latte. I know this must be difficult. Difficult? I slid into the booth. That's one word for it. Betrayal might be another. Clara flinched. I didn't know about you at first. Margaret told me Tyler was separated, going through a divorce. Of course she did. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the Easter photos. Is that why you're wearing my grandmother's sapphire necklace here? Her hand flew to her throat, though the necklace was long gone. Margaret gave it to me. Said it was a family heirloom. Ah, it was. My grandmother gave it to me on my wedding day. I zoomed in on the image. Notice how Margaret's smiling? That's her victory face. Heaven, Save it! I set my phone down. You didn't ask me here to apologize. Clara reached into her designer bag, pulling out a stack of letters. No, I didn't. I asked you here because you need to see these. The letters were expensive stationery, Margaret's flowing script unmistakable. I started reading, each word making my stomach turn. Plans, carefully laid out over months. Instructions for Clara on how to dress, what to say, when to laugh at Tyler's jokes. Details about his schedule, his preferences, his weaknesses. She's been grooming me, Clara's voice cracked, like some kind of replacement part. That's Margaret's specialty, I kept reading. She did the same thing with Tyler's first wife. Clara's head snapped up. First wife? Sarah. I met her eyes. Lasted 11 months before she had a convenient mental breakdown. Margaret had her committed. The divorce was quick, quiet, and very generous, provided Sarah never contacted Tyler again. Oh, God. Clara's latte was definitely cold now. There's more. Margaret. She has expectations. About children. About my role in the family business. Let me guess. She's already planned the nursery? And the prep schools. The college applications. The whole future mapped out before I'm even pregnant. Clara's perfectly manicured nails dug into her palms. I thought I was in control, playing the game. But she's been playing me all along. I gathered the letters, scanning the dates. These go back 8 months, well before the gala. She approached me at a charity auction, said her son needed someone suitable. Clara laughed bitterly. I thought she meant socially. I didn't realize she was casting for a specific role. My phone buzzed. Tyler calling again. I declined it, watching another text pop up. Where are you? Mother's worried. Does Tyler know? I asked Clara. About the letters? Tyler only knows what Margaret tells him. She pulled out one more envelope. This arrived yesterday, my script for the next 6 months, including when to announce the pregnancy. But you're not. No. Clara's smile was sharp. And I won't be. That's why I needed to see you. I'm done being Margaret's puppet, but I need help making sure I don't end up like Sarah. I studied her face, looking for deception. Why should I trust you? Because I have something Margaret wants to keep hidden. Clara tapped the envelope. Something that could ruin more than just her perfect family image. My phone buzzed again. Ben this time. Margaret's looking for you. Be careful. I gathered the letters, mind racing. Clara could be lying, setting another trap, but the fear in her eyes seemed real enough. And if she had proof of Margaret's schemes, meet me tomorrow, I said, standing. Bring whatever evidence you have. And Clara, if you're playing me, remember, I'm not Sarah. I don't break easily. She nodded, understanding the threat. Tomorrow, then. And heaven? I really am sorry. I left her there, letters tucked safely in my bag. Outside, the spring air felt electric with possibility. Margaret had made one crucial mistake. She'd chosen a replacement who was just as ambitious as she was. And now that replacement was ready to switch sides. My phone buzzed one more time, Margaret herself. We need to discuss your behavior, dear. Come to dinner tonight. I smiled, typing back. Of course, Mother. I have so much to share. Margaret's dining room felt like a stage set. Crystal glasses catching the chandelier light, silver gleaming on starched linen. Everything arranged just so, a perfect tableau of family power. Tyler sat at his usual place, Clara beside him, both looking anywhere but at me. Heaven, darling! Margaret gestured to my old seat. I'm so glad you could join us. I remained standing, Clara's letters burning a hole in my bag. Interesting seating arrangement. Well, Margaret's smile tightened. We need to discuss the new dynamics. The dynamics where you orchestrated my replacement? I pulled out one of Clara's letters. Or the dynamics where you plan to announce her pregnancy next month? Tyler's head snapped up. What pregnancy? The one your mother scheduled, Clara said quietly. Along with the birth announcement, the christening, and probably the child's first word. Margaret's knife clattered against fine china. Clara, dear, you're obviously confused. Show him the letters, I told Clara. Show him how his mother picked out his new wife like she was casting a play. Clara reached for her bag, but Margaret cut in. That's quite enough. Heaven, you're clearly upset, but this theatrical display. Theatrical? I laughed. Like the performance you arranged at the gala? Or maybe like Sarah's convenient breakdown? The room went silent. Tyler's face drained of color. How do you know about Sarah? I did some digging. I met Margaret's steel gaze. Found some interesting court records. Seems your mother has a pattern. Mother? Tyler turned to Margaret. What is she talking about? Margaret dabbed her lips with a napkin. Ancient history. Your first marriage was a youthful mistake. That you corrected, I cut in, with a carefully planned replacement, just like now. Clara stood suddenly, chair scraping against hardwood. I can't do this anymore. She pulled out her own stack of letters. Tyler, you need to read these. All of them. Margaret rose, authority crackling around her like static. Clara, remember our discussion about your future in this family. My future? Clara's laugh held an edge of hysteria. You mean the one you've scripted down to the minute? The one where I'm just another prop in your perfect family portrait? Tyler grabbed the letters, starting to read. With each page, his hands shook more violently. You planned all of this? He looked at his mother. The gala, the chance meetings, everything? I did what was necessary, Margaret said. Heaven couldn't give you children. Clara can. It's that simple. Simple? I moved closer to Margaret. Like it was simple to have Sarah committed? To convince Tyler she was unstable? Sarah was unstable, Margaret snapped. Just like you're being unstable now. No, Clara interrupted. She's being honest. Something this family should try sometime. Tyler stood, letters crushed in his fist. I need some air. Tyler, wait! Margaret reached for him, but he jerked away. Don't! He looked at each of us in turn. Just don't! The front door slammed behind him, leaving silence in its wake. Well, Margaret smoothed her skirt, composure cracking slightly. I hope you're all satisfied with tonight's drama. Drama? I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. This isn't drama, Margaret. This is evidence. Every letter, every manipulation, every scheme, all documented. Ready to share with the family lawyers, the society papers, everyone. You wouldn't dare. Try me. I gathered my things. Oh, and Clara, Ben's waiting outside if you need a ride. He's quite good at handling delicate legal situations. Clara nodded, collecting her bag. Thank you. Margaret watched us head for the door, her perfect world crumbling around her. Heaven, she called after me. What do you want? I turned back, seeing fear in her eyes for the first time. Want? I want you to remember this moment, Margaret. The moment you realized you don't control everything. The moment your perfect plan fell apart. Outside, Ben's car idled in the driveway. Clara hesitated before getting in. Are you sure about this? She asked. I looked back at Margaret's house, at the shadows moving behind curtained windows. No, but I'm sure about one thing. We're done being pawns in her game. Ben's office felt like a war room, papers spread across his desk, photos and timelines pinned to a corkboard. Clara sat beside me, her designer outfit wrinkled from hours of planning. Sarah's medical records lay open between us, a stark reminder of what Margaret was capable of. She'll come after you both, Ben said, tapping Sarah's file. She's already laying the groundwork. 3 calls today about Heaven's unstable behavior at dinner. Of course she is. I traced the signature on Sarah's commitment papers. History repeating itself. Clara's phone buzzed. Tyler again. She silenced it without looking. He's been texting all night. Wants to meet, to explain. Don't! Ben's voice hardened. Not without witnesses. Margaret's too smart to leave loose ends. A knock at the door made us all jump. Ben's assistant entered, looking worried. Ms. Rivers, there's someone here to see you. Says she's Sarah Mitchell. The room went silent. Clara's face paled. Sarah's here? Send her in, I said before Ben could object. Sarah wasn't what I expected. No broken woman, no tragic victim. She walked in like someone who'd rebuilt herself from scratch, elegant and sharp-edged. So? She surveyed our evidence wall. Margaret's at it again. You knew? Clara asked. I suspected, when I saw the engagement announcement. Sarah picked up her own medical file. Let me guess. She's already started the whisper campaign? Little comments about emotional stability, about handling stress? I nodded, watching her carefully. Why are you here? Because Tyler called me. She sat down, crossing her legs. First time in 7 years. He's finally asking questions about what really happened. And what did happen? Clara leaned forward. Margaret happened. She orchestrated everything. The doctors, the diagnosis, the treatment. By the time I realized what was happening, it was too late. The papers were signed, the story was set. Ben grabbed a legal pad. Would you testify to that? No. Sarah's smile was razor-sharp. I'll do better. I'll give you Margaret's playbook. Every move, every manipulation, documented in detail, including what she's planning next. My manuscript page glowed on my laptop screen, waiting. How do you know what she's planning? Because I've spent 7 years studying her, tracking her patterns, and because she just tried to contact me, offering a very generous payment to confirm your instability. Clara's phone buzzed again. Margaret this time. The text preview made her gasp. Darling, let's discuss your future. Tyler's not the only son with prospects. She's trying to trade me to Tyler's brother, Clara whispered. Like I'm some sort of investment. That's exactly what you are to her. Sarah stood, smoothing her skirt. What we all were. Pieces in her perfect family puzzle. So help us stop her, I said. Better. Sarah pulled out a USB drive. Help me destroy her. Everything's here. Financial records, medical conspiracies, 7 years of evidence. Margaret's not just manipulative, she's criminal. And it's time everyone knew. Ben took the drive, lawyer mode engaged. This could get ugly. It's already ugly, I said, thinking of my manuscript, of the story taking shape. But now we have something Margaret doesn't. What's that? Clara asked. The truth, all of it, and a platform to tell it. I opened my laptop, creating a new folder. The Margaret Chronicles. Sarah watched me type, understanding dawning. A book? Better. A series of exposés, released piece by piece. Let her try to discredit all of us at once. Ben's phone chimed. A message from Tyler. We need to talk, about Mother, about everything. Careful, Sarah warned. Tyler's not as innocent as he seems. No, I agreed, thinking of all the times he must have known, must have seen, must have chosen to ignore. But he's about to learn something important. What's that? Clara asked. I looked at our wall of evidence, at Sarah's strength, at Clara's determination, at my own reflection in the window, no longer broken, but sharp enough to cut. That his mother isn't the only one who knows how to orchestrate a perfect ending. The annual Rivers Family Gala buzzed with whispers and sideways glances. I moved through the crowd like a ghost, watching Margaret hold court near the champagne fountain, Tyler hovering uncertainly at her side. No Clara in sight, smart girl. Are you sure about this? Ben murmured, appearing at my elbow with a USB drive. Once we start, there's no going back. I took the drive, feeling its weight like a loaded gun. Sarah's in position? Ready with the slideshow, just waiting for your signal. Margaret caught my eye across the room, her smile razor-sharp. She raised her glass in mock toast, so confident in her control. She hadn't noticed the tech crew setting up the projector, hadn't seen Sarah slip in through the service entrance. Heaven! Tyler's voice behind me. We need to talk. No, I turned to face him. We need to listen, Everyone needs to listen. The lights dimmed, right on cue. Margaret's voice carried across the suddenly quiet room. Heaven, darling, what are you? The first image hit the wall. Margaret's handwritten instructions to Clara, complete with a schedule for the affair. Then, Sarah's medical records, the falsified diagnoses, financial documents showing payments to doctors, to lawyers, to silence anyone who threatened her perfect family facade. What is this? Tyler grabbed my arm. Stop it, now! Why? I jerked away. Afraid everyone will see who you really are? Who she made you? Margaret moved toward the projector, but Sarah stepped out, blocking her path. Hello, Margaret. Remember me? The room erupted in gasps as Sarah's commitment papers appeared on screen, Margaret's signature stark against white paper. This is slander, Margaret announced, but her voice shook. These documents are clearly fabricated. Like you fabricated my mental illness? Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. Like you fabricated Heaven's instability? Clara's sudden appearance in Tyler's life? Tyler, Margaret turned to her son, handle this. But Tyler stood frozen, watching years of manipulation unspool in high definition. His mother's letters, his father's silence, his own willing blindness, all exposed. Then came the audio. Margaret's voice, crystal clear. Clara, dear, once we handle Heaven like we handled Sarah, everything will fall into place. Tyler always does what's best for the family. The room went dead silent. I felt Tyler's stare like a physical weight. You recorded her? He whispered. No. Clara's voice rang out as she emerged from the crowd. I did. Every meeting, every instruction, every threat. Margaret's composure cracked. You ungrateful little… What? Clara moved to stand beside me. Ungrateful for being groomed as a replacement? For being traded between your sons like a stock option? I gave you everything. You gave me a script, Clara spat. Just like you gave Tyler a script. Just like you gave everyone a script. The projector clicked to the final image. Margaret's letter to Sarah's doctors, detailing exactly how to break someone without leaving evidence. Enough! Tyler's voice sounded strange, hollow. Mother, what did you do? Margaret straightened, ice replacing panic. What I had to do, for this family, for you. For me? Tyler laughed, an ugly sound. You destroyed lives for me? I built lives, Margaret snapped. I created perfection. Everything I did was a lie. I stepped forward, facing her directly. Every moment, every relationship, every perfect family photo, all lies. The room spun with shocked faces, whispered conversations, phones recording everything. Margaret's carefully constructed world crumbling in real time. Then she smiled, that same calculating smile I'd seen so many times before. You think this changes anything? You think anyone will believe the ravings of two discarded wives and an ambitious little climber? No, I said quietly, but they'll believe this. I held up my phone, showing her the manuscript title, The Margaret Chronicles, a true story of power, manipulation, and justice. The first chapter goes live tonight, Sarah added. Every major publisher's already bidding. Margaret's face went white. For the first time, I saw real fear in her eyes. And in that moment, watching her perfect world shatter, I felt nothing but emptiness. This wasn't victory. This wasn't even revenge. This was just truth, finally breaking free. The aftermath of the gala exploded across social media. Margaret's carefully crafted empire crumbling in real time. I sat in Ben's office, watching the views on my manuscript excerpt climb into the millions, when Tyler walked in unannounced. She's in the hospital, he said, looking haunted. Mother had a breakdown after the gala. Real or staged? Sarah's voice cut through the room as she emerged from Ben's private office. Because we've seen this performance before. Tyler flinched. Sarah, Save it. She tossed a folder onto Ben's desk. Your mother's already trying to spin this. Called 3 journalists claiming Heaven, and I conspired to destroy her family out of jealousy. Of course she did. Clara appeared in the doorway, her designer outfit replaced by jeans and a simple blouse. She just called me, offering to double my trust fund if I publicly discredit Heaven. Tyler sank into a chair. This has to stop. It will, I said, opening my laptop. When the truth comes out, all of it. The truth? He laughed bitterly. Which version? The one where my mother orchestrated everything? Or the one where I let her? The room went silent. Clara's breath caught. Sarah leaned forward. Say that again, Ben said quietly, recording app open. I knew. Tyler's voice cracked. Not everything, not at first. But I knew what she did to Sarah. I knew she was pushing Clara into my life. I knew, and I did nothing. Why? The word felt like glass in my throat. Because it was easier. Because she always fixed everything, made everything perfect. Because you're exactly like her. Margaret stood in the doorway, looking immaculate despite her supposed breakdown. You understand the importance of family, of legacy. Mother, don't. No, Tyler, it's time for truth, isn't it? She moved into the room like a queen entering court. You want confession? Here's mine. I did everything they accused me of, and more. Because this family needed it, needed me. We have evidence, Ben warned. Real evidence. Of course you do, Margaret smiled. I made sure of it. The realization hit like ice water. You wanted to be exposed. Clever girl. Margaret sat down, perfectly poised. Do you know what happens to powerful families in scandal? They become legends, dynasties. The river's name will be immortal now. You're insane, Clara whispered. I'm practical. Heaven's book will be a bestseller. Tyler's redemption arc will captivate society. Even you, Clara, will profit from your role as the repentant other woman. She turned to Sarah. And you, my dear, will finally have your vindication. At what cost? Tyler stood, shaking. Our lives? Our choices? Choices? Margaret laughed. You never made choices, Tyler. You followed my script, just like your father, just like everyone. Not anymore. I closed my laptop. Your story ends here. Does it? She raised an eyebrow. Look around, Heaven. Everyone in this room is exactly where I planned, playing their parts perfectly. No, Sarah stepped forward. We're not characters in your story anymore. We're witnesses. To what? To this. I pulled out my phone, showing her the live stream. Thousands watching as she confessed, as she revealed her true self. Margaret's composure cracked just for a moment. You didn't follow your script? Clara moved to stand beside me. That's the thing about manipulation, Margaret. Eventually, people learn to write their own stories. Tyler, Margaret turned to her son, handle this. But Tyler was already walking away. Goodbye, Mother. You'll regret this, she called after him. All of you. No, I said quietly. We won't, because your story isn't ours anymore. It never was. Margaret stood, straightening her jacket. Well played, Heaven. But remember, every story needs a villain, and I'm very good at that role. She walked out, head high, leaving us in silence. Now what? Clara asked. I opened my laptop again, starting a new chapter. Now we tell our own stories, all of them. No scripts, no manipulation, just truth. The cursor blinked, waiting. Behind me, Sarah and Clara exchanged looks. Ben started making calls. And somewhere in the city, Margaret was already planning her next move. But this time, we were ready. This time, we were writing our own endings. The book launch party buzzed with energy, my story displayed in every bookstore window across the city. The Margaret Chronicles had become more than an exposé. It was a movement, inspiring others to break free from their own manipulated lives. I signed another copy, meeting the reader's eyes. To Sarah, she whispered. Not the Sarah from your book, but someone who needed this story. Behind her, Clara chatted with journalists, her own tell-all memoir already generating buzz. She caught my eye and nodded. No more scripts, no more perfect roles to play. Quite a turnout. Ben appeared at my elbow, champagne in hand. Margaret would be proud. Is that supposed to be funny? Actually, it's supposed to be ironic. He handed me an envelope. This came to the office today. Thought you should see it. Inside was a letter. Margaret's elegant handwriting unchanged despite everything. Dear Heaven, you were right. Every story needs a villain. But the best villains, like the best writers, understand their power. You've made me immortal, darling, and for that, I almost forgive you. Margaret. She never changes, does she? I crumpled the letter. Maybe that's not the point, a new voice said. I turned to find Lucas standing there, his daughter Emma clutching his hand. Maybe the point is that you did. I met his eyes, remembering our first meeting at a writing workshop months ago, before the story broke, before he showed me that family could be simple, honest, real. Emma has something for you, he said softly. The little girl held out a drawing, stick figures holding hands, a sun shining above them. It's us, she explained, for your new story. My new story? The happy one, she said, as if it were obvious. After the sad one ends. I took the drawing, feeling its weight in my hands. Through the window, I could see Tyler across the street, staring at the bookstore display. Our eyes met briefly before he turned away, disappearing into the crowd. Heaven! Sarah approached, her therapy practice now flourishing with women escaping their own Margarets. They're ready for the reading. I moved toward the podium, Lucas and Emma finding seats in the front row. The audience settled, waiting for more revelations, more drama, more pain. Instead, I opened to the epilogue. This isn't a story about revenge. It's not even a story about justice. It's a story about the words we use to write our own lives and the courage it takes to start a new page. Clara squeezed my hand as she passed. Ben raised his glass. Sarah smiled, finally free of old ghosts. A movement at the back caught my eye. Margaret, elegant as ever, slipping into the shadows. She'd come to witness her own immortality, just as she'd planned. But this wasn't her story anymore. It never really was. I looked down at Emma's drawing, then back at my audience. All these people writing their own stories, breaking their own chains. Once upon a time, I began, there was a woman who thought love meant control, and a family who forgot how to speak their own truth. The words flowed, not with anger or revenge, but with understanding. Because in the end, Margaret had given me something precious, the power to tell my own story, to choose my own family, to write my own ending. Emma beamed up at me, Lucas's hand resting protectively on her shoulder. This was my new story, messy, imperfect, real. No scripts, no manipulation, no perfect facades. Just truth, in all its complicated beauty. And somewhere in the shadows, Margaret watched her legacy transform into something she never intended, a testament not to control, but to freedom, not to perfection, but to growth, not to her story, but to ours. I turned the page, ready to begin again.